Welcome to Epic World History. In this video, we explore the profound impact of the Opium Wars on China. From the first shots fired to the fall of the Qing dynasty, we witness the deep scars imperialism left on China's sovereignty. Through the rise of nationalist movements, the Boxer Rebellion, and the eventual founding of the Republic of China, this journey highlights China's struggle for identity, strength, and independence. At the dawn of the 19th century, the British Empire was at the pinnacle of its global power, expanding its influence across the seas. Eager to widen their reach in Asia, they found themselves facing a formidable challenge. Across the ocean, Qing China, ruled by the conservative Manchu dynasty, held firm to a policy of strict isolation, limiting foreign trade to only a few select ports. The British were able to trade in goods like silk, tea, and porcelain, but the flow of trade was heavily one-sided, with Britain importing far more from China than it could export in return. This imbalance began to breed frustration and tension, setting the stage for a clash. The key factor in this brewing conflict was opium, a potent, addictive drug that the British East India Company began to smuggle into China, hoping to tip the economic scales in their favor. As the British Empire searched for new markets to expand its influence, opium quickly emerged as a valuable commodity. Grown in the fertile lands of British-controlled India, the opium was shipped across the seas to China, where it found a growing demand. By the 1830s, opium had become not just a profitable trade item, but a destructive force infiltrating Chinese society. The Qing government, already weakened by corruption and internal unrest, became alarmed by the widespread addiction plaguing its people. Despite attempts to limit the trade, British merchants continued to smuggle opium into China, further deepening both their wealth and the social decay in China. In 1839, the Qing Emperor Da Zhuguang decided that enough was enough. The opium trade had become a destructive force, undermining his empire and society. In response, he appointed Lin Zexu, a senior official with a reputation for decisiveness, to lead the charge against the opium trade. Lin's actions were swift and aggressive. He confiscated vast quantities of opium from British merchants in Canton, now Guangzhou, and destroyed over 20,000 chests of the illicit drug. The British, furious at the loss of their valuable commodity, responded with outrage. Their government, eager to protect commercial interests, declared war on China. This momentous decision sparked the First Opium War, setting the stage for a bloody and consequential conflict. In the summer of 1839, the First Opium War escalated into a full-scale military conflict. The British forces, equipped with advanced technology and superior tactics, quickly overwhelmed the Qing army. Their powerful navy sailed along the coast, launching cannon fire upon Qing fortifications, while their ground troops advanced swiftly inland. The Qing forces, unprepared and outmatched, lacked the modern weaponry and organization needed to defend against the more powerful British forces. British victories came quickly, leaving a trail of destruction in their wake. The rapid collapse of Qing defenses sent shockwaves through China, exposing the Qing dynasty's vulnerability to foreign powers and revealing the immense gap in military strength. The First Opium War came to a close in 1842 with the signing of the Treaty of Nanking, a humiliating defeat for China. Under the terms of the treaty, China was forced to pay large indemnities to Britain, cede the island of Hong Kong, and open up 5 key ports to British trade. This treaty marked the beginning of a series of so-called unequal treaties that would gradually strip China of its sovereignty and rights. The Treaty of Nanking not only solidified Britain's dominance in the region, but also paved the way for further foreign influence in China, establishing trade privileges that would shape China's future for decades to come. The signing of the Treaty of Nanking in 1842 marked the beginning of a new era of British dominance in China. Hong Kong was ceded to Britain, quickly transforming into a thriving colony. In addition, the ports of Shanghai, Canton, Ningbo, and Fuzhou were open to foreign trade, allowing Britain to expand its economic reach. However, the consequences of the treaty went beyond economics. The Qing dynasty's inability to protect China from foreign aggression left a deep scar on the nation's pride. The Chinese people grew increasingly resentful of their government's weakness, which ignited internal uprisings and deepened instability within the empire. The effects of the treaty rippled through China, shaking the very foundation of the Qing regime. In 1856, the unresolved tensions from the First Opium War reignited as British forces once again clashed with the Qing government. The British, dissatisfied with the limited terms of the Treaty of Nanking, demanded further concessions, leading to the outbreak of the Second Opium War, also known as the Arrow War. This time, the British were joined by the French, forming a formidable alliance against China. The war was another devastating blow for the Qing dynasty, resulting in the occupation of Beijing by British and French forces. The capture of the imperial capital marked another humiliation for the Qing and solidified the foreign powers' influence in China. In 1860, the British and French forces, after laying siege to Beijing, captured the Summer Palace, a symbol of Qing wealth and opulence. The looting and destruction of this imperial treasure sent shockwaves through China, further tarnishing the already fragile reputation of the Qing dynasty. The Summer Palace, with its exquisite architecture and cultural significance, was ransacked, leaving a legacy of devastation. This event marked another humiliating chapter in the Qing Empire's decline. The Treaty of Nanking, signed in 1858, and the subsequent Treaty of Peking in 1860, forced China to open more ports to foreign trade and grant further privileges to Western powers, deepening China's subjugation to foreign influence. While the Opium Wars brought immense profits to the British, they wreaked havoc on China's economy and society. The country's economy grew weaker as it struggled to recover from the damages of war, and the opium epidemic ravaged Chinese society. Millions of Chinese citizens became addicted to the drug, which not only drained the workforce, but also weakened the nation's ability to resist further foreign exploitation. The opening of trade, while providing new economic opportunities, led to a flood of foreign goods that overwhelmed local industries. As Western goods flooded the market, Chinese producers faced growing competition and a decline in their traditional crafts. leading to widespread social and economic destabilization. The Opium Wars and their aftermath contributed to the rising discontent among the Chinese people. The Qing dynasty's failure to protect China's sovereignty and the harsh consequences of foreign dominance led to widespread frustration. This unrest gave rise to several major rebellions, the most significant being the Taiping Rebellion. Fueled by resentment toward imperial rule and the devastating effects of foreign exploitation, the Taiping Rebellion became one of the deadliest conflicts in history. Millions of Chinese citizens rose up against the Qing dynasty, challenging the very foundations of imperial power. The rebellion not only shook China to its core, but also marked the beginning of a turbulent period in Chinese history. The Opium Wars marked a significant turning point in Chinese history, signifying the start of a century-long struggle against imperialism and colonial domination. The once powerful Qing dynasty, unable to recover fully from these crushing defeats, was now in a state of decline. Although reform efforts were made, the dynasty's power continued to erode, besieged by both internal uprisings and external pressures. The legacy of the Opium Wars became a permanent scar on the Qing Empire, forever altering China's relationships with foreign powers. This painful chapter in history would leave China struggling to regain its sovereignty and dignity for generations to come. As the Opium Wars weakened China's grip on its sovereignty, Western powers expanded their influence across the region. The British, along with other imperial powers such as France, Russia, and the United States, gained economic and territorial privileges through a series of unequal treaties. These treaties imposed harsh terms on China, undermining its autonomy and paving the way for foreign exploitation. The effects of these treaties would be deeply felt by the Chinese people, as the country found itself at the mercy of foreign powers. This era of humiliation, marked by the erosion of Chinese sovereignty, would come to be known as the Century of Humiliation, as China struggled to retain its identity in the face of overwhelming foreign dominance. The constant foreign interference throughout the 19th century had profound effects on Chinese society, leading to widespread social unrest. As foreign trade expanded, a stark divide emerged between the wealthy elite, who profited from the influx of foreign goods, and the struggling common people. The opium addiction crisis only exacerbated the situation, further fracturing Chinese society. Millions of Chinese peasants and workers fell deeper into poverty and addiction, while the elite continued to thrive. This growing disparity led to rising discontent among the lower classes, setting the stage for more uprisings and social upheaval across the nation. The Taiping Rebellion, 1850 to 1864, stands as one of the largest and bloodiest conflicts in Chinese history, partly ignited by the discontent left by the Opium Wars. Led by Hang Shuquan, a man who proclaimed himself the brother of Jesus Christ, the Taiping forces sought to overthrow the ruling Qing dynasty and establish a new kingdom based on their interpretation of Christianity. This devastating rebellion lasted over a decade, claiming millions of lives and causing immense destruction. The Taiping forces clashed fiercely with the Qing armies, leaving deep scars on Chinese society. The rebellion further destabilized the already fragile Qing Empire, signaling the beginning of the end for Imperial China. By the end of the 19th century, the Qing dynasty was in sharp decline. The Opium Wars had exposed the empire's vulnerability, and despite efforts to implement reforms, these were not enough to address the deeper issues facing China. The government struggled to regain control, but continued to lose ground to foreign powers and internal uprisings. The Boxer Rebellion, which erupted at the turn of the century, was one of the most significant signs of the Qing dynasty's weakening authority. As the foreign presence in China grew stronger, the Qing dynasty's hold on power further disintegrated, and its once formidable rule collapsed. The Boxer Rebellion, 1899 to 1901, marked a significant chapter in Chinese history, as Chinese nationalists, known as Boxers, rose up against both foreign influence and the Qing government's failure to protect China. The Boxers, believing in mystical powers, believed they could drive out foreign invaders and restore China's strength. The rebellion, however, led to foreign military intervention from Western powers in Japan, humiliating the Qing dynasty further. In the aftermath, China was forced to pay heavy indemnities and grant further privileges to foreign powers. The Qing Empire, already weakened by decades of instability, was on the brink of collapse, unable to defend its sovereignty or regain control. In response to the growing instability within the Qing Empire, reformers such as Kang Youwei and Liang Qicha pushed for radical reforms. They called for modernization, including the establishment of a constitutional monarchy and the adoption of Western technology and education. However, their efforts came too late. The Qing dynasty, unable to adapt quickly enough to the rapid changes in the world, continued to weaken. Despite these reformist ideas, internal strife, external pressures, and the growing call for change from the Chinese people led to the 1911 revolution. By the end of the year, the last emperor, Pui, was forced to abdicate, marking the official end of Imperial China. The Opium Wars and their aftermath left a lasting legacy on China. The century of humiliation became a rallying cry for future generations, inspiring the Chinese nationalist movement. The economic and social disarray left by the wars led to radical movements, which sought to restore Chinese pride and sovereignty. It was during the early 20th century that leaders like Sun Yat-sen emerged, calling for the overthrow of the imperial system and the creation of a republic. The fall of the Qing dynasty paved the way for the Republic of China, founded in 1912. Although the country was still struggling with the internal divisions and foreign intervention, it marked the beginning of a new era. The Opium Wars had permanently altered China's relationship with the West, and the echoes of imperialism would continue to resonate through the country's history. The desire for national sovereignty, dignity, and self-determination became the central themes of China's 20th century struggles. Today, The Opium Wars are remembered as a dark chapter in China's history. They symbolize the deep scars left by imperialism and the loss of sovereignty that China endured. However, the wars also marked the beginning of China's long journey towards modernization and national unity. The lessons learned from the Opium Wars continue to shape China's foreign policy and national identity, reminding the country of the importance of self-reliance and strength in the face of external threats.